Murphy Austin Adams Schoenfeld LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road, Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.
Sacramento is emerging as a vibrant hub in filmmaking, with the potential to become the next hotbed for creative talent in California. Leading this cinematic charge is Robert Craig Films, creating jobs, boosting the local economy, and bringing stars of the big screen to Sacramento. Producer and Robert Craig Films director Jennifer Stolo joins me for a behind-the-scenes conversation about this growing industry, showcasing the passion and talent that is putting Sacramento on the film map, and how this mega movie is giving back to the local community.
And now, Rob on the Road, exploring Northern California.
I am so thrilled to bring Jennifer Stolo to PBS KVIE from Robert Craig Films. And Jennifer is producer, CEO, and just all around amazing human being, doing so much in our region. It's good to see you, Jennifer.
Good to see you, Rob.
This is phenomenal. Sacramento, cinematic, big screen, Sacramento, all of this really helping to put our region in a greater national stage, but doing great things for people here. First of all, tell us about Robert Craig Films.
Yeah, so it's wonderful, Rob. This is just an incredible company. Robert Craig himself actually was a longtime businessman, started the company Gutter Glove back in the late 90s. But he always had a dream to do films. He had done his own commercials, his infomercials, all types of things. He even acted a little bit, but he really had this passion project dream to create a film company that really created social impact films that really touch audiences in a different way, bring about empathy, compassion, generosity to really causes that need to be talked about, to elevate the conversations around them. So the company started 5 years ago, made a few films that went to streaming, and this is our first actual national theatrical release. It will be in theaters nationwide, the movie No Address.
First of all, tell me about No Address. Tell me just, first of all, your burning desires around what you want to share about it, and then we'll delve deeper.
Yeah, and I think too, Robert and I and the other producers, we all had a close connection to those experiencing homelessness, whether it's Robert actually working in the homeless ministry at his church, my husband who is involved in homelessness as well, or any of the producers that actually may have even experienced it somehow within their family connection. We all just came together and said, this is something that needs to be brought to life in a way that we can use the power of film to affect change. And we were actually in the middle of a different movie when this screenplay came across. Julia Verdon, who's the director and screenplay writer, she had brought forth another movie called Amy and Angel, which we will still do eventually. But I think the timing just felt right. This is an American crisis. And we just really felt like, what do we do to showcase that this could happen to anyone? That's really the theme as we began to talk about No Address. So No Address is a fictional film, a feature film that, again, will be out in theaters nationwide. And it's really about a group of individuals that unexpectedly fall into homelessness due to unfortunate circumstances. And they bond together on the streets as a real unconventional family to navigate and understand how they can find hope again in their life. And kind of backing up, Rob, it was interesting because we all said to ourselves, this is important that the right message comes across and that it doesn't turn into a cheesy Hollywood movie. We want stardom because we want this to attract attention and bring influencers to the table. But in the same way, we want to make sure this is authentic. And so we brought in a number of individuals, experts, and said, we really want you to all be a part of this production team so that we can ensure the authenticity of this and really the bleak realities of what homelessness looks like across our country. And so in doing so, we actually decided to take a 3-week bus tour across the United States. We visited 20 major cities, 18 states that had high levels of homelessness and engaged with hundreds of individuals, whether that was political leaders or heads of national nonprofits like the Salvation Army, rescue missions, different people that are on the front lines of it, and even those experiencing homelessness or who had had that experience before, to really study and understand what was going on. And the neat part about that, it actually turned into a documentary. So we have a documentary as well that's available for people to watch anywhere in the world called Americans with No Address.
I'm curious to ask you, what difference did you see in other cities that are really facing the humanitarian crisis of people experiencing homelessness? Did you see a tremendous difference?
We did. And so I think it makes our documentary very interesting of what you see. And I would even say from the West Coast to the Midwest to the East Coast and how different. We tried to take a real unbiased approach and look at everything from every side. And that included what we found, what really was not working, what is working, and then kind of an educational piece of how we got here, really 3 decades ago. And yes, I would say, unfortunately here on the West Coast, particularly in California, where 30% of those experiencing homelessness are here in California, in our state. Whereas if you go to Texas, there's some amazing programs there that really are making a huge difference, very solution-based, very community-oriented. And our goal was to really showcase a lot of these programs so that it could be replicated elsewhere, not only for political leaders to look at it, but for other nonprofits, for national leaders to look at policy that works and what doesn't work. And it really did take a gamut from, one direction to the next of what's working and what's not. Yeah, very, very different as you enter different cities.
I would love to ask you so much more about that, but this is about your film adventure, so I'm going to try to stay on that, but I have a million questions about the experiences you've seen across the country with people experiencing homelessness, and maybe we can do that for another program coming up on the documentary. I'd like to talk to you about one of the things that does have a tremendous impact on homelessness and people experiencing that, and that's jobs. Y'all are creating jobs in this region by bringing filmmaking here.
Yes. I felt so prideful when we actually did our economic impact report and found that we were actually giving back $4 million to the greater Sacramento region by fully filming this movie, No Addressed, here in our region. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's so great. When you think we tried so hard to find as much talent and as much of our cast and crew here locally as we could, and filmed most of it all in Sacramento, and then areas of Auburn as well as Folsom, and had a tremendous amount of cast and crew that were here and utilizing, Spring Hill Suites, up in Auburn, and all of their restaurants for an entire week to even do our pickup shots. And just, it felt good, to give back to our community that just was so warm and welcoming and so much hospitality around, especially our cast that were here filming.
Now, we've seen a lot of headlines and social media popping up about celebrities that are seen around our region. Can you name some of the people that have been involved in your films and that some may be coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Billy Baldwin. So our cast, like I said, the movie, it's really about 5 different storylines of gateways into homelessness and their backstory, how they came to be, and then how they bond together and share their lives together on the street in order to find ways for more hopeful futures. So Billy Baldwin actually plays a businessman, a very successful businessman that ends up having a couple of bad deals. Financially begins to spiral, begins gambling to try and save his home and his life and his family, wife and son, and finds themselves in that situation. And we see that a lot, economics through COVID, that happened a great deal. We've also got Ashanti. Ashanti is plays Violet in our movie, and she is a former veteran, and she's battling with PTSD and finds herself to have an addiction problem in order to battle with the pain and the trauma from all of that. We also have Beverly D'Angelo. Beverly D'Angelo actually plays the role of a woman that really is struggling with dementia and a lot of mental health issues and doesn't have the family support around her or children to care for her. We see that a lot with our senior community. That's the fastest growing community actually for those experiencing homelessness. In fact, 40% of those that are 50 years or older on the streets became homeless after 50 years old. So that is something we see a lot. We've got Lucas Jade Zuman. He's also one of our producers, an up and coming fabulous actor who's been in a number of things and just a delight to work with. We also have Xander Berkeley. Xander Berkeley most recently is known for he was in the Reagan movie, but most of us know him from the Terminator movies, along with Kristana Loken as well. She was in a lot of the Terminator movies as well, too. I mean, just a phenomenal cast of people. We've got a great cameo from Ty Pennington. Love him. He is so much fun. Just such a good guy.
Home makeover, right? Extreme home makeover?
Yeah, right. Move that bus.
Yeah. Move that bus.
Yeah. And you know what I think, Rob, was so great is that when they all came here to Sacramento to begin filming, they had asked if they could walk through the homeless encampments. And I think in their mind, they thought maybe to get themselves, quote unquote, in character. And what they would tell you today is they had a profound experience with engaging and interacting, many times walking away saying like, wow, I can't believe the story that person just told me, and how their life was somewhat like mine and how something changed, and they really went on a journey with us for the last 18 months and are just huge advocates out there, marketing the movie, of course, but speaking to the fact that we need to change the narrative. We need to look at this in a different way and see the human side of this situation. So we're just so pleased to, have them be a part of all that.
It's amazing. I love the extra steps. That's what we do at PBS. We go deeper with material, and that's what you're doing with Robert Craig Films. You're going that extra miles to make sure you're really covering your topics. Will you be able to do that with all of your films, or is there a mission to do that with your films?
Well, I know it's very different, In fact, our national distributor, Fathom, has, came to the table and said, we've never seen anything like this.
You're talking about major distribution companies, major players. I mean, this is a full-fledged box office big time film. I mean, this is
it's like I say to everybody, I go home every day going, this is a real movie.
It is a real movie. Real. Yeah.
So Fathom Entertainment is actually one of the top 10 distributors in the country, highest grossing last year, and just love them. They are such good, genuine people. And so, yes, we are distributing it nationwide, close to 2,000 theaters. So it will be, in everybody's neighborhood, February 28th, 2025.
Wow.
It's the real deal, as they say.
With future projects, do you want to have more tentacles, if you will, attached to the project? Or was this one that just provided an opportunity for you to really push that envelope?
Well, I think this one really, was an opportunity to provide that, but I don't see that it could happen, the same way, depending on, what cause-based film, we want to approach next time. I think what I love most about it, though, whatever the cause is, our goal is to partner with nonprofits that are addressing that, in this case, obviously homelessness, and we want to give back. So we've actually made a commitment to give back 50% of the net profits from all 5 productions to organizations addressing homelessness. And I think that's more important to us than anything else is finding a cause, utilizing the power of film, and hopefully being successful so that we can give back to organizations that are on the front lines of these causes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That is unheard of.
Yes, that's what I've been told a lot, which, I mean, my whole background, has been in social impact companies, leading them, nonprofits. And so for me, it just feels so good to be on this side of it, to be able to give back to organizations, because I know from being in on the inside, the struggles and the time and energy and, so much of the emotional fatigue that you can give in such great ways. I mean, an honor to wake up every morning and be able to make a difference in someone's life. But it feels good to be on this side of it, that we can give back to these organizations.
How big do you think our region can become with filmmaking?
Well, it's become pretty big. We filmed at the same time as Leo DiCaprio and his project, which was fun. We kind of crossed paths, and the news didn't know who was filming where. So it's been fun. But it's, I think it's neat. I think this region coming in, and I will say this because I did come from LA before I came here. And, Hollywood's Hollywood. And, there's the comment of like, could this be the next Hollywood? And I think in a good way, right? Not to be Hollywood, but to be, known as a region of filmmakers that can make a deep impact and support economically our region, but bring out some amazing films, but still keep, I don't know, the feel of who and what we are in the greater Sacramento region, right? Still just there's still a down-to-earth element, as many films that have been filmed here and what's coming out of it, and the talk about studios, different places. I think it'll have a great balance, of a new kind of Hollywood here.
Yeah, and I have to say, I saw and crossed paths only in passing with your film, with the one you mentioned with Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, it was nothing distracting. There may have been a block that was a portion of a block that was being used, or I mean, it wasn't a big takeover,
right?
And it didn't make anything unmanageable.
Right.
And so Northern California has that going for it, as well as they talk about Northern California having more working artists than anywhere in the country. It's because, I mean, my gosh, look what we have to create about. If we create what's around us, there is so much to showcase in Northern California. So that makes sense to have that many working artists here.
Yeah, and so go ahead. Yeah, the topography. I mean, just, that we can get to the ocean, we can get to the mountains, we can, there's so much you can do. Yeah. I mean, one day we can have a completely different look, and travel to a different set that we can create in Northern California. Yeah, so it has a lot to offer.
What has this brought you? What has this experience and this change brought you?
I feel like, I've always felt in my career, again, that there's so much you can do when you're able to work in social impact companies and nonprofits and all of that, and the direct change and tangible change you can make. And I think with this, whether it's this project around people experiencing homelessness or any other cause related, I find that Robert Craig himself has such a passion for giving back and for helping others that we as an entire team, feel that. And I feel like there's so much of a greater reach, with national filmmaking, there's so many more people we can reach. But I would say too, as close as I thought I was maybe to those experiencing homelessness and volunteering in shelters here in Northern California, it certainly is even a more eye-opening experience to be to the depths of where we have been and those that we have interviewed and interacted with. And I always say, to people, they're not the stories that you think they are, It's really that we need to take a step forward and meet people where they are, not where we think they should be. There's so much judgment, around this situation. There's so much NIMBYism, not in my backyard. I don't want these programs here, but yet I don't want people on the streets. And it's created a different look and feel. And how can we take what we're doing and change the hearts and minds of Americans? How can we actually create a movement and break the no address cycle? And there's just so much of a larger platform that I think there's more to reach. People ask me all the time, when I do interviews, and they say, it just seems so hopeless, because it's everywhere. And I said, it is everywhere. 1.2 million adults are homeless, 1.5 million children, which is even so sad, are homeless in our country. But it is not hopeless. When we went out and studied and made our documentary, there are amazing programs out there that are doing so many amazing things. And it was eye-opening, I think, for myself and all of our producers to know there are great things happening across this country. And if there's a little more political will and there's a little bit more compassion and less judgment, I think we can get there.
I cannot tell you how many people I've sat down beside and just talked who are experiencing homelessness. And it is amazing to me, the stories that I've heard and the places where people have come from. We are so, if you are not, you are so blessed.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, there's hope.
Yeah. Like we say, it could happen to anyone, 60% of this country lives one paycheck to paycheck, and as you say, as you walk by, right? When I walk by someone, I mean, I volunteer in the shelter. I have lots of, wonderful conversations and interactions with people, and, they're doctors, lawyers, mathematicians. I mean, it's all walks of life that are no different than, as you said, than you and I. But I did, one thing I always encourage people to do is to look someone in the eye and at least just say hello as you walk by them. You don't know how much that can change their day or the way they're thinking, or maybe reach out for hope. I asked someone their name more recently, and they paused as if they couldn't remember their name, and then looked at me and said, I can't remember the last time someone asked me my name. And it just like broke my heart, thinking like, how often do we meet people every day? And hi, I'm Jennifer. What's your name? And they feel invisible. They feel like people don't care, that people judge. And, many times their story could be no different than mine and yours.
Do you have a project that's coming up that you can talk about that is something you are tremendously excited about?
No, it's all secret.
Is it really?
Well, you can see on our website, we did start the movie Amy and Angel. It's a very heartwarming story about a girl that's deaf. She has a rescue dog, teaches it actually how to dance. It's very much of a U-turn to this movie, but there's a lot of similarities in there, just about life. And things that we all experience or hope not to experience. So Amy and Angel will be produced at some point. We don't know if something will come right before that or this will come next. But we're just, I think for us, this is not about just a film. This is not just a one and done. And so we really want to continue to lean in to this entire project and create something that continues to move on and on. I got a call from a couple of universities this last week of how can we bring the documentary and maybe the study guide into our curriculum here at our university.
Wow.
And it's things like that we don't know where this will take us, because we want this to continue. Homelessness is not going to end once this movie comes out of theaters, or goes to streaming. And so it's more to us than just a film. It really is something that should reshape the narrative, help people to see things differently, help people to get involved. I always say there's 3 simple things. People think, oh, it's too big, I can't help. Well, these nonprofits that we interacted with as we took our journey across the country, doing some incredible things, anybody can go volunteer. And if you don't have time to volunteer, you can give to these causes that are making a true difference, that have the wraparound services that people need. And to my third thing, as simple as it is, when you walk by someone, say hello. Ask them their name, engage in a conversation. You would be amazed sometimes the conversations that can be had, and just encouraging someone like, you can do this. This isn't, and we say experiencing homelessness because they're just experiencing it in this particular place in time. It doesn't need to be a forever thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love cause-based programming and films and projects and organizations. When you are driven by a passion and there's a project with it, it will drive you to places that when you feel like you are serving, you are helping other people and oddly saving yourself at the same time. I firmly believe that.
Absolutely, for sure.
I adore you. I've known you for so long, and all your work prior to this with Make-A-Wish just has been such a treasure. And I know that this is another treasure in your life. And I just have to ask you in closing before we leave, is there anything that you feel must be shared right now? If you walked away from this interview and didn't say about anything in your life, what would it be?
I always say to people, think about what it would feel like to not have a physical address. If we can just pause sometimes and think about what that might mean to us, it helps us to better understand and be compassionate about this situation. Not having an address means you don't have a key, to put in a door, to walk inside. It means you don't have neighbors. You can't receive mail. You can't fill out a job application without an address. You can't get your driver's license without an address. There's so many things that we all take for granted when we think deeply about what this would truly mean to not have a physical address. And so for us, I really hope, my goal is to create a sense of understanding. And when we have understanding, there's knowledge behind that, right? And that inspires people. And when people are inspired, they take action, and that's where tangible change takes place. So that's what our hope is, create the no address movement so we can break the no address cycle and move people to a place that we see this whole situation from the human side of it.
Absolutely phenomenal. There's going to be so much power around this. And I'm so glad that when you're putting this on the big screen, you're putting such a big topic out for people to truly grasp and then to take with them and do something about. Jennifer Stolo, thank you so much for joining us from Robert Craig Films. I'm so thrilled to speak with you, and thank you for being here on Pop at Home.
Thanks for joining us. You can watch when you want at robontheroad.org.
Murphy Austin Adams Schoenfeld LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road, Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.